Hey
Everything before was a
everybody,
prelude.
this is the beginning of the real meeting now. Okay, now it's recording. um, so I'm just bringing up. Oh, and I guess I need to actually screen share so you all can see it as well. Um, I don't know why I ever stop screen sharing. I always turn it on and off and on and off again. Okay. Um, so I'm just going to bring up a couple other engines. Uh, and again, I don't know. I'm still kind of at the point where like from a teaching standpoint, at least, I'm not totally sure what I'm going to be doing moving forward. I, you know, we may even be just trying out a couple different things, but I just want to show a couple of different engines and talk about pros and cons with all of them. So obviously, the two big, big competitors I would say are Unity and Unreal. Um, uh, for in terms of edge, like using it for learning or working on smaller projects and stuff, they're essentially both free still. Even with all the drama around Unity, it's essentially still just free to use. um, that's where it does get into, obviously you can kind of discuss like the specifics about how they monetize things, but basically Unity and Unreal are like, you have to have some pretty major success before you'd actually have to start paying anything. Unreal has a once you're making over $1 million with a single product, then you have to start giving them 5% royalties. Unity's new backpedaled fee is something like 2.5% over 200,000.
200,000, yeah.
I mean, and there's actually, it gets more complicated than that, but that's the most easy one to understand. But both of them can just be downloaded to use for free. Um, I think it's also worth mentioning Unity, the company Unity is publicly traded, and Unreal is owned by Epic Mega Games, which is not a publicly traded company. They're not on the stock market. So that has, I think, a huge effect on things. Um, I've mentioned this before, but just that that's one of my concerns, I would say, with like deciding to go with Unreal is that I think that when Tim Sweeney gives up his control of Epic Mega Games, it's extremely likely that they're going to go public, and then I would be just as worried about them as I am about Unity, basically. But
Yeah.
um, maybe not just as worried. I would still probably be more worried about Unity.
Yeah, it's
uh,
like Valve. Valve is able to do what they do because they're not,
right.
publicly open, or they don't even have shareholders,
Yeah, and
which
that's
is
that's a,
wild.
that's a huge thing. I kind of want to get people thinking about with um, just the game industry in general. Is a lot of times when you're like, why did this company make this stupid decision about when they shipped a game when it wasn't actually ready and stuff? It's almost always you'll see it comes down to, is that company publicly traded and they're trying to make investors happy, or are they a private company that is, I mean, they're still trying to make money, but they're not having to play the stock market game with it. Um, so I'll go over to Godot, but then I'm actually going to show a bunch of other open source stuff. So Godot is open source. So what this means is, like with Unity and with Unreal, you are essentially licensing a tool from these companies that develop these tools. Godot is an open source software. So um, the source code for doing everything with Godot is totally open and freely available. So even if the development, what do they call it? The development fund, the foundation that they set up for Godot, if somehow they decided to make all of this private, every version of Godot leading up to that would be fully open source still. So people can create what's called a fork off of that and just continue developing it essentially.
Yeah,
Um,
and that has happened in the past with lesser projects where there's almost always one community standard, which basically after a company privated their software, there's an open source fork that usually is led by a couple talented people that most people use.
and what's exciting about Godot to me is that they are now following the same kind of model that Blender has already set up, where Blender, actually, a lot of people I maybe aren't aware of. Blender was a private software that got open source way back in the 90s, basically, and um, but they essentially have set up a foundation for it where it becomes so open source. It's technically somebody could decide, well, I'm going to make this branch of it private, and it's like, okay, but all 800 other people that are part of this foundation aren't doing that, so it doesn't matter or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's the cool thing, is I think Godot is going that same direction. Um, and yeah, there's a lot to take a look at with it. You can make some really cool stuff. I've been playing around with Godot. It is not a the thing is, to me, it's similar to like Blender versus 3D Studio Max or Maya. It's not a replacement for Godot is not a replacement for Unreal or Unity. It is a different option for doing different stuff. Basically, you can still make games and everything. Godot can do 2D and 3D. I would say it's more well known for 2D projects, but
Yeah, for 3D, it's not good.
yeah,
To be honest, it needs some work. It needs some work.
yeah. That's the thing is I imagine you can definitely release kind of more like indie style games with the 3D
Yeah.
stuff, but
Open worlds, though,
yeah,
there's no
too
way.
there's too many performance limitations, I think, with it right now. I mean,
Yeah, there's some severe physics problems. Almost all engines have floating point issues. Godot has some of the worst I've ever seen as well.
is that what
For floating point.
what I was seeing though is there's actually an implementation of Jolt for physics with it. I mean, does that I don't know, does that would that
Uh,
address those
it
issues then, or
I'm not 100% sure. It's basically like from our internal testing of Revelation, we found it that like we tried to port Eden, which is a relatively small game world. It's about the size of Skyrim's map,
okay,
which is not small, but I mean it's a
yeah,
wasteland
sure,
or
but
whatever. We could get way less than we could with Unity in terms of before getting floating point issues. So
okay,
obviously there's floating point fixes you can do where resetting the origin or
right.
moving the game world like a treadmill under the player, but uh it, it's like it's a difference of it's like 10,000 units relative to
Really? Yeah, we'll have to
200,000.
talk more about that. I'm definitely interested in learning more about that. I mean,
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, so that's the thing is I think Godot right now realistically is still more for like
hobbyists for sure.
hobbyists,
uh and
smaller,
2D projects.
yeah, and that's 2D projects especially.
Yeah, it
Um,
can handle level design, or it can handle like level based 3D projects, but almost any
open
form of
world
open
is a
world
big
would
issue.
have severe problems. And it's mainly because the main problems with their C sharp implementation. There's a lot of issues with that. So it's one simple fix. You could use GD script, but currently their C sharp implementation is one older. And let me also pull up some information so I'm not spouting
No,
complete
yeah, no,
garbage
this
here.
is awesome. I didn't know about that stuff.
Yeah, there's a whole paper you can find on it. Currently, let me real quick try to find it.
Well, here, while you're pulling that up, I'm gonna pull up a couple more open source things that are out there. So I was gonna bring up Monogame. Monogame is actually really well known. Again, I would say primarily um, primarily known for 2D projects. So if anybody knows like Streets of Rage 4 that came out in the past year, I want to say that was made with Monogame. There's you'll see a lot of these are there's Celeste. I forgot Celeste is obviously a huge one. If anybody's played Bastion, I didn't realize Bastion was made with that actually. So actually, a lot of these are uh, indie games that I know well. That Stardew Valley uses Monogame. So
Yeah,
um,
they ported to it just 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
oh really?
Because he
Oh,
wrote
gotcha.
everything himself, but it went multi-platform. So
with
he went to
mono
mono
game.
game for
Okay,
for
cool.
easier, and they also now back mono game as well.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that and I can't remember was the Terraria developers, they put a bunch of money into Godot, and then what was the other one? Was it Monogame? Developers. Red House. Source. What was the other one they put money into? Do, 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 do. The Relogic, they're the developers of Terraria. They gave $100,000 to Godot. Oh yeah, and then FNA, which is an open source implementation of XNA that I had never even heard about before, but that it's actually apparently, I guess, well known enough game. I had never heard about it before, but um, it looks like at least in some way it was used for Bastion. I don't know about these other games, but I'll have to look more into that. But anyway, they got a huge cash injection from the Terraria developers. What was the other one I was wanting to show? I mean, a good place to check is now I'm just brain farting on everything. Nicholas isn't here to save me. It's a video. It's a channel that he watches on YouTube. Yeah, Flax and Cry. Well, I don't know. I'm not even going to mention CryEngine. I guess I should mention CryEngine.
Oh no! Don't mention Cry.
CryEngine is still around somehow.
It'd be old. That's for sure.
I actually I was doing stuff with CryEngine at my last school because they were doing a bunch of VR support for a while, and so we started messing with that, and then there's a bunch of weird stuff going on where Amazon developed an engine called Lumberyard that was built off of CryEngine, and now what is that? Is it just called Open Engine? What is that? Amazon Open 3D Engine. That's it. Open 3D Engine.
There you go.
This is like, as far as I can tell, a where I can't even find. See, this is I can't even find the actual.
You just go to Amazon Lumberyard. It's there in yellow.
Does that take you to?
Yep. Oh. It will showcase the engine.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, learn more about 3D.
Okay, so they've officially said yes. Lumberyard. Wait, Lumberyard's Apache licensed successor. Okay, so there is this Open 3D engine that is basically the next iteration of Lumberyard. I have not tried it out yet. It's one of those things I don't, as far as I know, they're like, hey, we're putting all this support behind it, but I don't know if anything's actually been shipped with it, so that always scares me. Brendan, yeah, Flax is another one out there. Flax is another one that I've heard, at least on Twitter, a lot of people talking about Flax being a good option. Now, this one's kind of weird to me in terms of, not weird, but just, it's, again, this one is not actually, you get full source code, but it's not open source. So that's actually the same as Unreal Engine. You actually have full source code access to an Unreal Engine, but it's, you still have to pay for Flax Engine. There's one, oh yeah, there's another one called Stride. I don't know if it's Stride Game Engine. This is another one that is looking promising, but I don't know where it's at yet, really. This one is actually free and open source, and has some really impressive visuals. And as far as I can tell, it's supposed to be very similar to Unity, so I think that's part of what they're catering towards there. But
I went ahead and DM'd you a link to another one as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Which is kind of important for my line of work.
Oh, nice. Is this okay? I'll read through that. I'll read
Yeah, yeah,
through
read
that
through
whole
that.
thing.
I'll present that in a second.
Yeah, cool, man. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to throw this out there to everybody. If you've only been aware of Unreal and Unity, there really are like a ton of engines out there. I mean, I've used a bunch of stuff in the past, and it all depends on how much coding you want to do and everything like that as well. Um, but you know, again, I think a huge part of the issue with the Unity stuff is Unity has been this really great community of lots of indie devs and hobbyists and stuff sharing their work or making things really cheap to get off the asset store and everything. And that's where I think over the next couple of years, my guess is that less indies are going to be choosing to use it, and that over time that's going to really kind of starve the community. And that, I think that's almost the bigger issue I'm worried about, is in the next like 5 to 10 years, the health of the Unity engine
Yeah,
basically.
we'll really see how trends are going to be set. I think Godot is kind of going to lead the open source
Yeah,
engine community rather, as there's going to be a lot of other ones, but Godot seems to have the most steam. Monogame is definitely the option for 2D right now.
right.
It's really
That's,
good.
I think that's what I'm seeing, is I don't think that Godot is actually seriously there yet, but because of all
Yeah,
of the,
it's the same that happened when with Blender
yeah,
when Blender initially got the spotlight shoved onto them, where it's like we're not a competitor to Maya, where all those things, and then they got money, and then they started adding shortcuts that were akin to Maya performance and custom changes to make them an actual rival,
right,
and that took a couple of years. That took
right,
about 5 to 6 years, but
yeah,
once it happened, it happened.
yeah.
And it's like, but they always say that at the beginning. They're like, we're not a competitor to this. We're
It's
not
funny.
equivalent.
I was looking through some of my old notebooks, and I found where I was first starting to mess with Blender. I can't remember. I'll have to pull it up. I don't even remember what I was writing about. I was like, well, I guess I should be checking it out a little bit more. And it's like, little did I know that now I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Blender
Blender is
head.
really old. Blender has been out under a public license since 2002.
Yep,
Before then, it was private.
yep.
But yeah, it's definitely gone undergone some major innovations before I was even born, and as they're kind of going
Ah,
along.
why do you always have to say that before you were born? Uh,
But yeah, no, it's like in the 90s they did a lot of cooking, as you said, privately, and then it became more and more community driven, and then they eventually, I think it was in October of 2002, they opened it up under the strictest possible open source licensing you can give,
well,
which is a good thing.
I know Ken is actually gonna have to leave or soon. I know he's got house house drama going on, not drama, but
Okay.
house craziness going on. But
I was waiting for you to mention the greatest game engine ever that we've
So,
both had experience with,
with
source.
glitch,
in Glitch.
don't remind me about glitch.
Tell them about Glitch.
Glitch is the GameLoft version of Earlicht, which is an open source game engine. And
I'm
they,
surprised you didn't mention source.
well, I know. Actually, I was thinking about source
Yeah.
as well. Well, what I was going to bring up, Ken, though, is just to kind of wrap this up with like talking about, regardless of what everything's going on with this, I kind of anticipate that this is going to have some major shifts in the industry in terms of like expectations of what you've had experience with and stuff like that. And Ken,
I've
when
had a few.
you came into you did you join EA in 2006 or 7?
Yeah, 2007.
And, and so
End of 2006.
Ken was coming in at the time of Wii. I think that was the original
Yeah, the
Wii,
Wii
right?
released uh, in 2007, I believe.
I mean,
And
you all are too young to
it
remember,
was,
but like the major changes from Nintendo saying, "Hey, there's a huge audience of people that are not hardcore gamers. Like that. I feel like that was really when we started seeing like casual versus hardcore gamer distinctions coming up in terms of the game industry. Um, but
it certainly it I mean, because EA didn't really, they weren't prepared for, well, no one was prepared for how successful the Wii ended up being. So I remember finishing the job that we were on, and then being put into a room with a bunch of people having to figure out how to make stuff for the Wii. That was that was the next couple of years, just doing prototypes and figuring stuff out.
but
So it was
I mean, I guess I'm bringing this up in like the idea of, you know, the game industry goes through these shifts of like somebody, well, you know, in the past, I feel like it's usually been somebody made a lot of money on something new. So like, so Ken and I were both working either EA or Gameloft when, you know, we was making a bunch of money with family type games, and then Facebook, well, then there was mobile games, and then there was Facebook games. And so, you
well,
know,
yeah. Then there was like Xbox 360 and PSN
yes, yeah,
stuff. We were
multiplayer.
doing that stuff as well. We were
Yeah.
doing Facebook. It was like a roller coaster. Every every year there was something new to look for. So
Yeah.
crazy,
I mean,
but it was interesting.
yeah, and I guess to me that's part of what's exciting about all the Unity drama to me is it's a different thing, but I think that a lot of people got really cozy just using Unity for everything,
Mm.
and this is shaking things up where people that really know what they're doing are now switching from Unity to other engines, whether it's Unreal or Godot, or just starting to be like, hey, I'm going to just develop my own engine based, you know, making a fork off of some open source project that's out there already. Um, and so I think that we're actually going to see, hopefully over the next couple of years, kind of another um, flurry of some sort of innovation of essentially creative people testing out new tools and everything, you know. So
So I wanted to put my 2 cents in here real quick. Screen share of an engine alternative to those who are looking for an
Oh, yeah.
online option. So this is pretty stigma, but this is Roblox. This is a pretty powerful cloud-based engine that you can use completely free. It has analytics engines. It has custom lighting, all the sorts of base level things you can do, which instantly shippable with one button to Xbox, PlayStation 5, Oculus, PC, mobile, and iOS. All from one. There's a lot of good revenue splits on here. It's 70% for every sale, as long as you were the creator and the seller. If you're selling affiliate items, which is things that other developers have made, it is 40%, which is not bad. Or, sorry, 30%. It's a pretty powerful engine in terms of what you can do, and you can import any file format, but primarily FPX is what's used. And it's relatively powerful, and I speak from experience as this is what I use almost day to day currently. You can do some pretty good stuff in here in terms of what you're able to make. And it does have a lot of things out of the gate already pre-made, so character controllers, physics, all of these are built into one API. And so if you're looking for an engine to start in, Roblox is a pretty good engine to start in. Also, it's using Lua, which is a very high-end language.
When did they, I mean, I know that some form of the Roblox studio has been around for a while, but I feel like the last time I was checking out Roblox, it was still felt very like.
So the major refresh came in 2015 because Roblox has been out since 2007, but up until 2015, it looked like absolute garbage. There's no other way to put it. Where it was very 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 bad. In 2015, there was a 2-year refresh up until 2017 with some major tools to allow PBR usage and infinitely expand just what you could do within the Creator Suite, allowing for external animations, external meshes. Because up until that point, you weren't even able to use
It
external
really,
meshes.
I guess it
use
really
Boolean
must have
animations.
been that long since I was looking at it, because I was looking into it when they were adding the PBR stuff. And I guess I
Yeah,
haven't really
that
looked
would have been
seriously into it.
around 2018, 2019.
Oh no, okay. I mean, because just from I've been, you've been showing me some of
It's
what
actually
you're doing
still
with
in
it,
beta. Ironically, it's not even public yet.
but what you've
Only
been,
only certain people have access to it. I think it's called surface appearance. Yeah. So it's like it's not even in public yet, but here you can upload a color map, a metalness map, a normal map, and a
yay.
roughness map.
Oh, the PBR stuff isn't public. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, because this is something that, yeah, I started looking at it as like if you got, you could get some serious experience using this, I think. And so, um, I guess and I know we're running out of time here, but I mean, I know you're doing a bunch of crazy stuff with this. What do you think that would look like for students though, if they were using Roblox? Like, what type of stuff would they need to be doing with it to get seriously
Uh,
considered for like jobs or anything like that?
so the main thing is server structure. There's also a lot of companies on Roblox really prioritize certain frameworks that are made by some of the best developers like Ego Moose and Slightneck, which are absolutely amazing developers that made the Fusion and Knit frameworks, which are specifically tools to make really high-powered network abstraction and things. So learning those, or just even having good structure, because the thing about Roblox is a lot of things are pre-made, which is good for the introductory creator,
Yeah,
where a kid can come in here at age 12 and make a game in a week if they wanted to.
yeah,
But to make an actual decent game, you actually have to bypass a lot of those systems because they're not necessarily great.
yeah,
And then also there's a lot of other things you'll learn as well. If you actually ship a game in terms of like exploit prevention and server validation, as replication is already handled for you when you're coding within the game. So it's basically once you get the engine set up, there's something called remote events, which you can then fire and pass information to the server, or from the server to the client, or do loops with remote functions for client to client, or server to client to server, if you need any form of validation. So learning those is pretty important. There's also technical artists as well. So it's like if you just have 3D skills, a lot of people on Roblox are paying incredible salaries. At the moment, it's about like 7 to 8 thousand a month
where
from
where
certain
where
studios.
where can you even find like this is where I don't even, I'm so out of the loop with this stuff. I mean, where do you even find like people in the Roblox world that
So
are
the main
hiring
thing
or stuff
is
like that?
there's the Roblox Developer Conference, which is invite only. But if you're not, trying to get your foot in the door, there's major communities. There's the Roblox dev forums, which allow you to communicate with other Roblox developers. Additionally, there's Twitter with the Roblox dev hashtag. Just by looking over the course of a day, you'll find most of the major players: Slightneck, Ego Moose, Crazy Man 32, Elta. You'll find these people that are very high level, and then from them, if you follow them, you'll find other Roblox studios like Full Flower
So
Games,
what
Uplift
are
Studios.
what are the sizes of some of the biggest studios that are like kind of exclusively Roblox developers?
So one that comes to mind is something called Uplift Games, which made one of the world record games with the highest player count ever, which was Adopt Me, at 1.6 million concurrent users at one time. It actually crashed Roblox's servers for 6 days because Roblox had never had that many users in one game at that time. Because they had like 8 million or so people online, but that was 1.6 million traffic into one game, which had a subset of servers, which crashed their whole array. But these people are, I believe, a 42-person team,
Wow. Okay.
and
Wow.
they do pay quite a lot as well. So this says full time. So you can see their salaries here. Currently, if you're in the Midwest right now, which most of you are, this would be your salary range right here, which would be Dallas, Texas. And they do accept degrees, but they also, so if you don't have one, they do have that. But it's all the same hiring process. You need code samples. You need experience. In here, they'll say that you need experience with Roblox development, probably in here 2 years plus professional experience in software development, proficiency in Lua or your programming language of choice, experience with any game engine, an understanding of the human elements of software engineering, demonstrated curiosity for learning new tools, comfortable with math. Yeah, especially vector math. If you're doing any form of Roblox development, you need to know vectors. Vectors are incredibly important for C-frame alteration and also just in general physics. So
well, I'm
pretty
taking a look.
important to know.
They've got a senior 3D character artist posting that I'm taking a look at too. So that's I'll throw that into the chat just since that's probably kind of a little more
I believe they also have an introductory position right here as well, which is the development assistant, which pays a little less. But it's an introductory position where they don't require as much, and you'd basically just be assisting other developers. So if you want an entry point, this would be the one to go for.
Yeah, cool.
And I'll post that in chat as well.
Yeah, thanks.
And they will accept almost anybody, so it's like they'll accept about 10 to 15 people a year for this position, and a lot of them are still there, because then you'll be promoted through their company, where they'll actually make you after you're this for a year and a half, they expect you to promote to a software developer or a 3D artist if you're on that aspect.
That's crazy. Well, okay, so then I guess I feel like I need to be looking more seriously at Roblox too. You've sold me.
Yeah, and this is just one of the studios, and then also there's a lot of money right now in branded experiences. Like for example, I believe I'd have to go on Twitter. Let me go to my actual thing here. But I believe a new Walmart experience just launched like earlier today by what is this guy? Which they work for. Yep, here you go. So they just launched a branded Walmart experience from Sawhorse. It's been 4 months in the work. And I just released a Crocs World project pretty recently, which was a tie-in, paid tie-in where they hired our studio to make a Crocs game. Wow. That was an outstanding move. And I can't disclose the price, but it was quite a lot for like 4 months of work.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, then we need to start. Okay, we're gonna turn everybody into Roblox devs. Okay, well,
I need to go.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Ken.
Have a great week, everybody.
Me too. Bye. Good luck. And I'm probably gonna have to head out here too. So.
Me too. I gotta dip.
Thanks a lot, Nathaniel. We'll see you soon. Okay.
No wonders. Or no worries. No wonders.
Or no wonders. Yeah.
No wonders. Who needs to wonder? Times. Also, I didn't get to really say hello to you, Marlo, but it's been nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you, Marla. Does anybody have any last minute questions or anything before I let you all go for the night? Everybody's just gazing in amazement.
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing.
Exactly, 100%.
I'm seriously I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess I have to look more seriously into Roblox. I knew that people were making money off of it, but I'm like, wow, they're hiring people at pretty good salaries. Like, sorry everybody, I'm leaving to be a Roblox development assistant. No.
It's interesting that you brought it up in the meeting earlier, and then it came up so much tonight.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it is weird. Roblox is it's a game, but it's also a game engine. So, and I didn't realize how robust it's gotten for really supporting. Nathaniel another time was showing me. I mean, there are some. I mean, it looks like Call of Duty, but it's in Roblox now and stuff. I'm like, it's pretty crazy. So
that's wild.
So anyway, lots to chew on and think about. If anybody has any questions, I guess just let us know. Otherwise, we will see y'all next week or before then if we have one-on-one calls or anything. All right.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks again, Marla.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.